Bienvenidos, amigos, and welcome back to another episode of the More Life Diaries podcast. And today we have a life update. Been quite a while since we did one of these. Again, the kids were off school for a little bit, so we were kind of burnt out. But a lot has been going on. So let's get right into it. We'll start with addressing, my new business ventures. So studying to become a real estate agent here in Puerto Vallarta. We announced it on our last video where we checked out Playa Los Muertos. If you haven't already, go and check that one out. But yeah, just some very exciting stuff. I got a job with a brokerage, Biencom, which are based out of Lake Chapala, but they just somewhat recently in the last year or so opened up an office here in Zona Romantica.
Yay!
So I'll be working out of there. Again, I just have some courses to take. The courses and the actual process to become a real estate agent seems a little bit easier than it does back in Canada. Like they've made it very, very difficult in Canada now to get your real estate license, and you have to go through a lot. It's a little bit more straightforward here. So I'm just going through the process, very excited. I think it just made sense for me to, go in that direction. Having the channel, having a lot of people reach out, looking to move here. So just really exciting to, hopefully get to meet and to buy or sell some of your houses out there. And why I say it kind of like makes sense, it ties everything together. I think that I had been looking for a job that I can be like self-employed, get to meet more people locally here, get to practice more Spanish, and just kind of like, have more roots here within the city. Like I think Puerto Vallarta for us is definitely something that we see, staying here long term, at least here or in the surrounding areas. So it was just a matter of trying to figure out like how can I generate some income and also do the things that I love doing in the meantime, like content create, learn about the culture, learn more about the language, get to see new places and experience new things. And like, what better way than to be in real estate? Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it definitely gives you the flexibility. You're working, but you also aren't stuck to like a 9-to-5 schedule. Yeah. You have now an office where you can go into work, but you can also do stuff from home or wherever.
A nice, quiet office.
A little jealous.
To get to work too. Yeah. Who thought that I'd be saying that after like, I'm only ever going to work from home again. Now
right.
I'm like, going to an office isn't that bad.
And I think it's nice that you're being paid in pesos, which like, I get paid in USD and Canadian, and that's great. But I think there's just, the peso's really strong right now. Mm-hmm. So, we have that steady, it's the amount that we live in, right? That's what we pay our bills with. That's what we buy groceries with. So now we don't have to always worry about the conversion.
Yeah.
Like the Canadian dollar is performing very well.
Canadian dollar is.
Yeah. And it's nice that you work here, whereas like I work with all remote clients and it's fine, but they don't really, I don't know. It's just, it's,
I think working here, like on site is something that I really wanted to do. I wasn't sure, how I was going to do it. I was juggling the idea of maybe working in hotels or with hotels for a little bit, but yeah, real estate definitely makes sense. And we want to learn more about the economy here, the real estate market. Eventually, we're looking to buy and invest in PV or surrounding areas, maybe even in other parts of Mexico. So just getting more insight on the market and when is a good time to buy is definitely, a plus for us. And it's all information that I'm planning on sharing with you guys, especially from a data analytics standpoint. That's what I was doing previous to moving to Mexico. So Hopefully I can gather some data and see what the market's like and share that with you guys on my real estate YouTube channel. So maybe we can segue into that, guys.
Subscribe. I don't know. There's a link somewhere.
I've officially picked my real estate name here. And I really wanted something like, not like my name, Marc-Andre Castonguay and Associates.
It's a long one. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, my name is very French Canadian. It's hard to say for Spanish people, for English people. So I wanted something that's just very easy, straightforward, but also something that is searchable for people that are looking for real estate agents or real estate channels on YouTube. So I went with Marco in Mexico. So very straightforward. It's not like anything crazy, which I didn't want. For those that don't know, I go by Marco here. Like everyone in the neighborhood knows me as Marco. Anyone Spanish speaking knows me as Marco. So I was like, Marco is easy to say, Spanish, English, French. It's very easy. And also when it comes to like SEO type stuff, it is very searchable as well. Mm-hmm. You like Marco in Mexico?
I like Marco in Mexico the best.
I'll put the logo here, the official logo I've been working on. So again, just something very like neat, classy. So yeah, I'm very excited to, hit the ground running when I can, start sharing more information. And the YouTube channel will be like, I'll showcase properties. I'll do that whole real estate thing, but I also want to show you guys just some vlogs, like day in the life of a real estate agent here, showcase restaurants that we probably wouldn't otherwise go to. The office is in Zona Romantica. We don't spend a lot of time there. So, I'd like to hop around, showcase some coffee shops, some restaurants, and just explore that whole area a little bit more. It's very touristy, which is like one of the reasons that we don't typically go there much. But, being that the office is there and that a lot of real estate is there as well, it'll be interesting to really get to know that neighborhood a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Marco in Mexico, guys. Email down below if you need a realtor or any assistance or questions. The email's down below. And the other thing is I've gotten a lot of questions regarding if I'm going to be doing rentals as well. So let me explain that a little bit more. I'm going to be focusing on buying and selling. And the reason why rentals isn't such a big market here for real estate agents is that it's not on MLS. So in Toronto, for example, all of the rentals or most of them, unless they're listed privately, are on MLS. So the agents can actually get the listing, just like if you were to buy or sell a house. You get the listing, you go with your agent, you visit the place. It's not like that here. It's a little bit more of the Wild West. A lot of people just put up their rentals as individuals, like they don't go through an agent so that they don't have to pay commission. Mm-hmm. And whenever you're not paying for an agent, then there's no purpose in like agents getting involved because there's no money to be made. So there are some that are going through agents. We eventually want to get into property management as well. So manage short-term and long-term rentals under whatever our property management company will be. And then we will have, rentals to help you guys with. But that's kind of the way that the rental market works here. It's like the agents have their own properties. They've got to deal with the owners and they're like, hey, if you rent out my property, I'll give you X amount. And then those agents will show you only their properties. So some will have maybe 5. You're looking for something around the 20,000 peso mark. They'll take you around to their properties that are in your price range and, based on what you're looking for.
So basically they're working for the owners, not the renters.
Not the renters. Yeah. Spot on. Mm-hmm. That's what we did. We found an agent on Facebook the first time we rented and, we're looking for this. So he took us to some of his properties.
But only his
properties, not what is available on the market. So it's very limiting. For rentals, again, like Facebook Marketplace is the place to go. There's so many options there.
And you can use it like you would MLS. You can search by neighborhood, price range, bedroom, all that kind of stuff.
View, so you can see like what neighborhood or how far is this from the beach.
Sometimes they're not properly located.
Yeah,
we'll make another video on that.
There are some things, but overall, Facebook Marketplace remains the best place to look for rentals. There's tons of Facebook groups that you can join. I would look for the ones that have a lot of traffic in them. Typically, when you look up like Puerto Vallarta rentals, you get a bunch of Facebook groups. Some of them will be like 5 posts per day. And then you want to click on that one because there's a lot of traffic, a lot of new added rentals on a daily basis. But yeah, use Facebook. If you don't have a Facebook account, create one if you're planning on coming here, because a lot of business is done on Facebook Marketplace here. Really good tools. There's another website called Mano a Mano. And that is another one where you can find a lot of rentals. Everything on there is in Spanish, a lot less transparency, where like you can't see the person's profile, for example, like you would on Facebook. But that's another option for you guys, Mano a Mano, for rentals. But again, like if you have any questions, if you want some guidance or direction, don't hesitate to reach out to Marco in Mexico, or Realtor at gmail.com. I would gladly help you like with any questions you may have, for sure. What else has been going on?
So in the news, or sort of like in the chismosa world of Puerto Vallarta in Mexico is, there's been some issues with music being played, and there's just been some complaints that have been causing some issues. The biggest one is Mazatlan, where I guess there was a hotel and the guests were complaining about music being played on the beach. The music was coming from Banda groups. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But basically people that come around on the beach and play Banda music live for whoever wants to hear it, whoever will pay to have a song played. This is pretty typical. I've never been to Mazatlan, but you can see that here as well in Sayulita, in different beaches here in Puerto Vallarta. People will come around and ask you if you want a song or two. So I guess. And
people love it.
Yeah,
like a lot of people like pay for it. Like people get drunk, they dance, they sing. Sometimes they let the drunk guys sing. Like
it's a whole vibe. Yeah. Generally, this is during the day on the beach. Everyone's having a good time. But then I guess some of the hotel guests were complaining, and there was some sort of complaint or whatever to have it illegal or to make it some sort of fine for these musicians to play on the beach, which, caused quite the uproar with the locals, and they played even louder. I guess they got together.
There was some protest. There was like a big protest, I think, and it got really, really heated. So I think the outcome from that, the last time I heard, is that they've established some rules. Maybe like you guys can play certain times of day or on certain parts of the beach and not others. Mind you, the beaches here in Mexico are all public, right? They're not owned by the hotels. They're not owned by anyone. They're just public beaches. So if there's a hotel, you should be allowed to go to the beach.
Right. And play your music. And now that kind of whole scene is coming to Puerto Vallarta. There's a restaurant, a very well-known, long-time restaurant called Gaby's. I think they're pretty much a staple for authentic Mexican food. The chef that works there, he does a lot of like cooking lessons and all of this kind of stuff. I think it was his parents that opened it. Anyways, they play music. They have musicians that come in for dinner and play for the patrons. And I guess
like many traditional
restaurants.
Mexican restaurants.
And I guess what happened was some foreigners bought an apartment or house next door to this restaurant and were complaining about the noise and wanting it to stop. And so another petition has been made to fight this. I guess there's been protests and people calls of support, which most people sound like they're supporting the restaurant, which us too. Like, this is a longtime restaurant. Like, these are new people that moved in and all of a sudden want it to change.
Now, we're unclear if these people are snowbirding or if they're here year round. Not that it matters, like just the simple fact that they would buy a condo or an apartment that is right next to a restaurant in one of the most touristy towns in Mexico. Like, you're
in the
Puerto Vallarta,
central part,
and
like
in
this
the
is
central part,
not in the outskirts. This is not in like a little farm town. This
and
is
you
like
expect it to be a quiet part of town. You're batshit crazy. I'm sorry, like, there's something wrong with these people. I don't know the whole story, but just the fact that it's escalated to here, there must be some truth to the story, that there was some complaints, like, that's for sure, about this restaurant having music. So there's been some protests on that front, willingly so.
Now even louder.
We have never been to Gaby's. We will be going there and vlogging about it. So good for them, man. Like, good for them for, fighting the good fight. But it's things like this and people like this that give all of us immigrants a bad name. Like, the ones who want to live here year round, that want to, be here for a long time.
That like the Banda music.
Yeah, like, and us as content creators living here, we really see the other side of it, where like people will be rude to us sometimes in the comments, like, go back to where you came from, learn Spanish, or like,
go home gringo,
like these types of things. And it's, a few bad apples, but so we're to blame for all the changes, inflation and just any sort of negative things, but it's always like the few bad apples that ruin it for all of us.
Yeah, I feel like most of the people we know that we meet are, totally fine with whatever music. They understand, they're respectful. They try and speak Spanish. They, they embrace the culture. But yeah, there's a few that come here and they just don't want, it's like they don't want to really be here, but they just want the weather and the prices. And then,
and to those people, like, you tried it out, it didn't work. Like, it's not for you, it's too loud, or you don't like it, just leave. Like, try to go somewhere else that is more of a match for you.
And that doesn't mean you need to leave Mexico, but maybe Puerto Vallarta is not for you. It is a beach town.
If you don't like noise, Centro or Cinco or Zona Romantica, and your apartment next door to a restaurant is not the place. Yeah, it's not for you. It might have been, priced really well. And now you know why. So make sure to, really do your research before you get into.
We'll have a video about that as well. Yeah. But I also wanted to mention that I kind of, within all this, I read a comment from somebody on the Facebook group, and she's like, I moved to Mexico from wherever she was from. And she's like, I really appreciate quiet and nature, and I don't want all that thing. She's like, I found a community in a town that also, where all the locals also just want quiet and peace and nature, and they work to preserve that. She's like, so I found the place that was right for me, and I moved there. Not, you're not going to go to Vallarta, Cancun, Tulum, where else, like Sayulita, and then expect it to be quiet. Like,
but even within each of these towns or cities, there are little pockets that are quiet. I mean, you'll have to maybe let go of, wanting to be walkability or very close to the beach. Like, you'll have to give a little bit, but there are pockets that are quiet. And again, like, our biggest recommendation, it was rent wherever you're thinking of buying before buying. So you really know and understand, like, how that neighborhood is. Is it too loud? What's the foot traffic like? Cars passing by. Roosters, parties. Sometimes, like, in the nighttime, it's quiet during the day, but there's parties every night.
Right.
So it's really important to do your research. Like, it's a loud town, it's a loud city. There are pockets, but in general, if we were to generalize, like, it's loud. There's a lot of sounds here.
And also just to note on the culture here, like we were actually at a neighbor's party. They were having their wedding across the street a few months ago, which started at like 10 p.m. So just to give you a context in time. And one of the guys that we were sitting at the table with was like, he mentioned something like, oh, like here in Mexico, like we don't have noise limits, because he lived in the States for a while. He's like, we don't have noise windows or like times where you need to be quiet.
Like bylaws not really going to come by and like ticket you for making excessive noise.
He's like, if your neighbors are having a party one night, you let it go, you allow it to happen, maybe you attend. And then when you want to have your party, you have your party, and everyone's just cool. Like you give and you take a little bit, right? And that's just here. Like people are like, it's probably not going to be every night in a neighborhood like this, but once in a while, there's a party and everyone's just like, it's their night, and like you close your windows.
But again, you're moving next to a restaurant. Expect it to be every night.
Yes, in this case, you can't want the scene only when you want the scene. Like you're moving into the scene. Like it's going to be whatever it is, like Monday to Sunday, basically.
And my biggest issue with it all, I have an issue with everything that like regarding that, but a lot of people like in Mazatlan, they want to come here from Canada or the United States, wherever they're from, wherever it's hyper regulated. There are laws for everything. You get tickets for anything and everything, and they want to change how things are here. They want to establish more laws, more rules, because it's them. They want to change it for them, for their own like selfishness, right? That's not how things work. If you come somewhere, you should accept it how it is. Like Mexican people, they live amongst each other. They make it work. They have, their own system, their own way of living. If you come here and you feel like you need to change that, then here is not for you. You can adapt. Like there's always that. There's always a little bit of give. So maybe you don't like the certain way things are done. It's not up to you to change it or try to, complain or establish a new law about it. It's up to you to adapt to how things are done here. And, if you don't like that, that's a problem for you, then find an alternative. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Like way back in our podcasting journey, we had a podcast about culture shock, I think, on the way here. And one of the things we talked about is sort of like you arrive somewhere, you're like completely enamored, honeymoon phase where everything's amazing. And then eventually you hit this spot where you're like, it's the actual culture shock. And you're like, all of the things that you ignored or you didn't
Did the
notice.
roosters get louder?
Yeah, did the roosters get louder? All of these things, like you start to notice, like any place in the world will have things that you're not going to like. And then the sort of end of that, unless you run home, is you just accept those things for what they are. You don't necessarily need to understand them fully. Eventually that might come, and you don't need to embrace them. That might never come. You might never embrace certain things about a culture, but you just need to accept that's how it is. Mm-hmm. Or again, like maybe you're just like, it's too hard for me to accept some of these things, and I'm going to try somewhere else. But that is part of like moving to a new country, to a new culture. There will be absolutely things that you do not like. But if you think about your home country, there are probably things that you do not like. You've just learned to accept them and work around them or just deal with them. And that is no different when you move somewhere new. You're going to have things that you're like, maybe it's a little bit loud sometimes. I don't like it. Accept it, work around it, maybe find a new rental or home in a different neighborhood. I don't know. But it's just, you can't, exactly what Marc said, you can't come here and be like, well, it inconveniences me, so you guys all need to change how everything has been for the past.
Even worse, like it inconveniences me, so let me get the law enforcement involved and try to maybe not close down a local, business that's been around for many, many years, but at least take away some of their business. Like people go to that restaurant for live music. And again, this is in Gaby's
for the
specific
ambiance.
Case. I may not want to close it down, but let me call the law enforcement so they make new rules and they, not allow businesses. Like that's a real POS way to deal with stuff. Not realizing that the restaurant isn't the problem, you're the problem.
Right. It's like if you went to the restaurant, let's say Peepee's, for example, or Pippi's, and you were like, wow, this is really loud, louder than I expected. And then you were like, I want all these musicians to go because I wanted to have a quiet dinner.
Yeah.
So you guys need to stop and everyone else needs to stop having their fun so I can have a quiet dinner. No, like you realize that, okay, I came to this place. It happens to be loud. There's live musicians. Everyone else is having an awesome time. You know, you suck it up and you don't have a quiet dinner and maybe you don't come back if that's what you want. Like if you want a quiet dinner, you go to a quiet place.
And again, like we're really passionate about, you know, sharing these things and talking them through because like we feel it on the back end of things with like, you know, not in person. We've never had any
but
sort
if
of
you
bad
read like the
interactions.
comments to some of these news articles, especially in Spanish, like, you know,
people aren't
happy with like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, gringo hate going on.
Yeah.
And I don't think they even necessarily mean towards everyone. Like they I'm sure if you ask them, they understand it's like a select few, but then it just does like,
but it adds
taints
fuel,
like the reputation that we have here of people that are going to come and try and change things and like, you know,
and it adds fuel to the fire. Like again, whenever things are not going in a positive direction for whatever reason in a country, like the immigrants are going to be the ones to change. So this is like adding more fuel to the fire, to the gentrification talk, to the inflation talk, to
the rising, you know, rental prices, home prices, grocery store. Like, you know, it's so easy to be like, well, it wasn't like this a few years ago when you guys weren't here. And then they point to the new people. So,
and they're like, yeah, it wasn't. And also no more live music.
Yeah. And you've taken away our joy.
So it's a very unfortunate situation. You know, we're just trying to, again, like establish some roots here, be low key, assimilate as much as possible. It is hard with the whole gentrification talk. Like we do shop locally for the most part. We live locally. We try to, you know, just assimilate, be low key. But again, like the rental prices, like, yeah, we pay a lot, you know,
in comparison
to someone that owns their home here or lives in a generational Mexican home. But in terms of rental prices, we pay very little in comparison to the other rentals on the market. So like, is it gentrification? I don't know. It's the market, right? It's like, that's the demand.
I mean, if we said no to the price on this apartment, they would have said no to us and then someone else would have rented it.
Someone would have moved in and would be like, where do we go now?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting just kind of living through it all, really. And it's just important to reflect and be kind and be accepting and try to assimilate. As always, that's always our message, like try to assimilate to how things are here, because how things used to be for you, wherever you come from, are irrelevant now.
And to end it on a bright note, I do think most of the locals here don't hate gringos or foreigners in general. You know, you can just flip it back to wherever you're from. Like we're from Canada. I'm sure I know there are people that would blame things on immigrants before, but that's not the majority of people. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure that's still happening now, but I mean before, like because I have immigrant parents, so I understand like that is something that, you know, there are a few people that will point fingers to problems. Sorry, can I start again? Yeah. To end it on a bright note, I just want to say that we've never had an in-person bad interaction with any locals. Everyone here is super warm and welcoming. Again, just as it is the bad apples on the gringo side, there are, you know, people who are reacting badly on the local side. I think most people are coming to Mexico with the best intentions. And I think that most locals are welcoming us with the best intentions. And, you know, if you think about it, wherever you're from, like we're from Canada, there's the same sentiments. If something's going wrong, people might point to immigrants, but it's not the majority of the people there, right? And it's not the majority of immigrants causing the problem. So unfortunately, that's just how it goes. Bad apples are everywhere on both sides, but please don't take it to mean that you are a bad apple or that bad apples are going to attack you in the streets, because that's not happening.
Not at all. We haven't had a single negative interaction actually with locals or, you know, snowbirds or Well,
One snowbird.
One snowbird. The only bad interaction was one snowbird, unfortunately. Actually, he's not a snowbird. He lives here year round, but I believe he is Canadian. It be your own people, really. So nothing but good, positive vibes here. Again, like all of you, whenever you see us, it's always cool interactions. We do appreciate everyone that stops us and says hi, and chats with us for a little bit. Like, it's really, really awesome that we get to meet some of you in person. And yeah, it's just really online and a few bad apples that have triggered a lot of things. But I hope, everyone here understands that those are bad apples, and like, it's not a representation on everyone that lives in the country. And
manzanas malas.
Yeah. So guys, I hope this is the last of it, man. These stories keep coming up, and we like have to address it because we talked about it before, and it kind of like leads into the next podcast. But everyone just behave, guys.
Behave. Buy earplugs if you need them.
Yeah. There's roosters around. There's parties around. Banda music is great.
Yes.
We love you guys. We appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button. If you're new here, we're trying to get to 5K and we're very close. So be greatly appreciated if you haven't already to hit that sub button.
And subscribe to Marco's new YouTube channel.
Marco in Mexico. It's down below. Subscribe. I don't have a video yet, but I'll make a little intro video very shortly, and email me at marcoinmexicorealtor@gmail.com if you want to say hi or if you want to chat as well. This is our journey. More Life Diaries. Peace.